All right. I think we should get started, right? Yeah, the doors are closed. I'll be walking around a little bit. So welcome. I was told, yeah, to put off your phones and then afterwards fill in the survey that you should have received by email to evaluate this hopefully informative talk, so the people of Develop Brighton can make this event even better than it already is. There, I said it. So welcome to Unlocking the Power of Paintings, and please touch your work too, a double postmortem. That's a mouthful. Let's dive right in it because we have a lot of ground to cover. This is mainly going to be a talk about touching art in this way, but also sometimes in this way. So it's going to be a bit of an all-around talk. Tomorrow the indie bootcamp starts, but I feel it's kind of a indie bootcamp kind of talk. Very tuned into solo developers or small teams. I think it's a bit about mobile development, development in general. So I'm gonna start out with talking a bit about who I am, of course, and how to stand out in this very crowded game market. Then discuss the first game, a little bit how it was made, and also what I learned from it. Then the second one, and then discuss some random things I learned along the way, which are not very project specific. And we'll close off with a little bit of Q&A. Voila. So who am I? I'm Thomas Waterzooi. In case you wondered, Thomas Waterzooi. Waterzooi is this. It's a chicken or fish soup originated from the region I'm from. I'm from Ghent, which is in Belgium, but I live in Brussels. And basically in Ghent, you eat it with fish because it's closer to the sea. And in Brussels, you eat it with chicken. And I just thought that was a funny story. These are the ingredients, but that's obviously not what the talk is about. I worked at Larian Studios, Divinity Original Sin. Of course, Larian Studios now is way more famous of their huge hit, Baldur's Gate 3. And then I moved to Denmark, Copenhagen, to work on this nice little bold bar-coded Hitman. So yeah, let's discuss a little bit about how to stand out, right? But rather how I think I stood out as a solo developer and how you can potentially do so if you work really hard. So I was working at IO Interactive, but I think I turned 30 by then, and I felt like I wanted to do something else. I don't know, my world has changed. It wasn't necessarily the kind of games I wanted to work on. I wanted to become an independent, work on my own ideas. The problem was that I didn't really specifically knew what I did want to do. I kind of knew what I didn't want to do, which was no games about violence, no judgment whatsoever. These games have a right place and a right time. It was just not for me anymore. Also, I didn't want to make games for kids. I think there's already a lot of games for kids being made. And there's a lot of adult gamers, right? And I wanted to make games with a bit more adult nature, adult topics. Also, not hardcore skill-based games. For me, gaming just became a thing to relax to, like, and relaxing again. It's a very subjective thing, but for me, relaxing was not learning some kind of skill. Very intensive gameplay, which also included no time pressure, right? I just wanted to be able to play the game at my own pace, and that's it. So, but I did know I wanted to make a game for my non-gamer friends. I noticed I had a lot of friends who never played games, and I kind of wanted to make them proud as well as my mom, right? I think we all have this point in our life where we want to make our parents proud, and I just wanted them to enjoy the things that I was making, obviously, to bring our world and my world closer together as well, and in general make games that were closer to my kind of lifestyle back then, and preferably also with a good story, because I think I like stories from movies, from series, from books, and I kind of wanted to see more of them in games. In hindsight, this kind of feels like I wanted to make wholesome games, cozy games, but back then they weren't as popular as they are nowadays, of course. And then I stumbled onto this thing called Manifesto Rejecta, which is a manifest written by Pietro Luigi Riva, an Italian game designer. And he kind of bundled all of these ideas I more or less had as well, but in a very strict, nice way. So what it is, it's a manifest with 10-ish rules on how to create games for a new audience. And what is this new audience? It's adults, which have a lot of adult interests, right? Art, traveling, lifestyle, friends, relationships, but also, of course, the harder parts like illnesses and depression. And but these adults often don't find games or consider games as the medium that addresses these topics. So he says, like, we have to make games for these, or learn how to make games for these people, if you ever want to make games become the art form they are deserved to be. I mean, I think they're already art, but it's more of a perception issue, right? And this, I'm gonna summarize some of the rules. It's a talk in itself. You can find it online, Manifesto Reject, a very interesting talk. He immediately opens with one rule, which is very hard, and he says, like, games should flow like a river, which means like time should be independent of the players' interactions, because a lot of games are actually very, you walk into a trigger, something happens, you open a door, something happens. Like the world is dependent on the player interaction, which is kind of weird when you think about it, right? The world should exist without the player being in it. Not an easy one. A bit more easy, and something that I did as well, is that you should take your sources outside of gaming culture. I think a lot of movies do this already, right? A lot of movies are based on a book, for example. Or you can, have collaborations with photographers or other kind of architecture, whatever kind of skilled people. It should be short, both short in development time, as in play time. Development time, because it's to avoid a thing called project fatigue, right? Where you basically get sick of some kind of a project, or a project might actually evolve and turn into something else over the years. It's also way more risky, obviously. Short in playtime, because a lot of adults have a lot of other priorities in life, right? They might have children, they might have hobbies. I don't know who these people are that have more than 90 hours time to finish a session of Baldur's Gate, but I'm not one of them. I just like a short experience and then get on with my life. Author-driven, so some kind of a vision in there, a bit like author-driven cinema, something personal that's in there. And of course, accessible, a very important feature as well. This means both on a price range. So he says games should not cost more than a cheap meal, let's say, in each country. But also accessible for me means bringing your game to mobile, because I don't know if you know this, it's a very fun statistic for parties. Well, whatever, it's not that funny, is that there's more phones than people in this world, because a lot of people have two phones. So come to think of it. And all of these phones are technically gaming consoles, right? So for me, it kind of made sense to make a game run on that console. So yeah, as mentioned, it started with a book. In my case, it was, what are you looking at? 150 years of modern art in the blink of an eye. Will Gumpert, he's an ex CEO of Tate Modern in London. And in Dutch, actually, the subtitle was freely translated to like, my little sister can do this as well. And I was really triggered by this title, because that's what a lot of people say about modern art. It's like, I could have done this as well, and my child could have done this as well, which might be true, but it's not that important. But it's kind of a modern art for dummies. You go on this journey, a very anecdotal journey about where these artists worked and lived and what bars they hung out and stuff like that. Very, very nice. And it was around the turn of the century, early 1900s, that actually, for the first time in history, artists started portraying their vision on society, their critique on society in their work. And I found that very interesting, right? Because it was kind of this personal path. And I was actually having my personal path, or searching my personal path as an indie developer back then as well. So yeah, at some night, I just decided to make a game about Mondrian. And let me show you a little bit of the game.
Help.
So yeah, I forgot to mention. So it's about Mondrian. Mondrian is one of the first painters that went pure abstract, which I found very intriguing as well. So the game is based around the fantasy of the of finally being able to touch the artwork, right? That's the whole idea. I thought it was a funny idea to start working with, and for me, actually, I created this Mondrian generator. And one night, and then I decided to add gameplay to it, like puzzle gameplay, and I thought, like, okay, yeah, there's something there. This could be kind of a full game. So I introduced this method, which I called visual first design, where you take the painting, you take a painting you like, some iconic painting, and then you add gameplay, and then you add story, which is the opposite of a lot of how a lot of game developers work. I think usually start with the mechanic. And like this, I made 3 games, mini games, you could say, in one, actually. So they were all part of the first game. And for example, New York City is very poetic. It's almost not a puzzle at all. You just travel through the street. It's a bit like Snake, where you collect letters to form a poem. And the first one, the left one, is very puzzly, and then the second one is a little bit in between. So to summarize, it's what I call a cozy puzzler. There is some narrative. It was designed with mobile in mind. As mentioned, that was very important for me. So that meant that there obviously were some limitations on, for example, finger sizes. It was premium, which is exceptional for mobile. I'll get back to that later. 3 to 4 hours. And it was inspirational rather than educational. Like, I didn't want to make a serious educational game. It's a game based on Mondrian's work, not really about Mondrian, because it has my own kind of stories in there, right? The author-driven part. For example, the New York City game is actually anecdotal about my trip to Copenhagen to work on Hitman, moving to another city and all the emotions, having to leave my partner behind in Belgium. Very important detail. So yeah, but I did kind of solve the educational part for people that really were interested. They could check some Wikipedia-like information in the level selection menu. So these were all the levels, and in between you had, like a real museum, you had this kind of information bits on the walls. So yeah, what are the results? What did I learn? It got quite some awards, which is amazing. I'm very thankful for that. It was mentioned in the Guardian, in some of the top games, 2022. It got a Eurogamer recommended label, also super nice. Google Play Indie Awards, which is a festival that doesn't really exist anymore. It's very strange, or it might have changed name, which in the end also brought me a ticket to Google Play Pass, which is basically Netflix for Google Play. And I made way more money from this Google Play Pass than actually the actual sales on Google Play itself. Apple Design Award nomination, sadly didn't win it. So I got on the radar of Apple. And a little bit of statistics that might be interesting for people. You see on the left, there's a lot of impressions. So Apple really pushed the game forward. But then there's a big drop down towards actually the project page views, but still a lot. But then a little bit, sadly, the conversion rate was apparently 0%, and only a 10K-ish downloads or sales, because again, the game is not free. Important detail. As you see, the majority of the traffic came from the App Store themselves, and there's actually a large percentage of people also played the game on iPad. Now, the reason why I think this conversion is so low is because the game is, no pun intended, very abstract. It's 3 games in one. It's a very unconventional puzzle, and I think on a marketing point of view, this might have really hindered things. So that's definitely something to take into account for the second game. Pro tip time. Yeah, so how did I get on the radar of Apple, you say? Very easy. You just go to LinkedIn and you type in whatever company you want to get into connection with, and then business dev. Because business devs, they're basically client relations, right? These are companies, we are their clients. They make money because of us. They take the 30 or 15%. So you can just contact them. That's what they're there for. And you can make up some kind of a question where you ask about how can you improve conversion rates in your store, or what you should or shouldn't put in your trailer, something. It doesn't have to be really that complicated. And they might have a very non-answer, or very, you say like, okay, yeah, we really don't know, but at least you got on their radar, right? So voila, that's the first pro tip. To round it off, the first game, a little bit of caveats about mobile development. There's not a lot of mobile publishers, so I kind of had to go through the production process myself. I got support from the Flemish government in Belgium, which up until 75% it supports for art games, which is a lot, and the rest I just had to invest for free. But I still believe in kind of this premium model, because as you see on the App Store, actually the free and the paid apps are still divided. So if you look at it from a statistic point of view, you have less competitors, so more chances to actually appear in those lists. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I do believe it, and I will keep on going for now. Yeah, keep some updates at hand. Apple, as we saw from the statistics, very store-driven. Voila, that's it. So actually, features are very important, and features usually require some new updates. So, for example, you can keep some languages behind and then say like, okay, we've added a couple of languages. Can we get another feature? Might work. Who knows? Try before you buy. I tried this on Google Play actually, which basically means that you have a little bit of it's basically a demo, but mobile doesn't really have this concept of demo as Steam has, which I think is a pity. Some people, they make like separate products, but then you might lose some traffic, of course, as well. So the next best thing is try before you buy. Basically, you play a couple of levels, or you play a certain time, and then you get a paywall. But it is risky because a lot of people, if they see free, they expect free, right? So you might get some angry reviews. So yeah, let's jump right away to the second game. Take the Yeah, sorry for the stuttering. I think it's the computer heating up a little bit. So yeah, what is Please Touch Your 2? It's basically Where's Waldo meets James Ensor, which is a famous painter from Belgium, whose father was British, by the way, meets Monty Python in the sense of animations, etc. It's a hidden object adventure, slow-paced. More than 83 paintings are in the game. You get hints when you're stuck. Again, I want to focus on relaxing games. That's kind of my thing. And you can play them age 12 plus. Technically, I think you can be younger, but there's a duck smoking a cigarette who dies immediately. And, according to Steam, you have to give this kind of marker. There's also implicit use of alcohol, but it could be iced tea as well. We'll get back to that as well. So yeah, what's the game loop? You have the skeleton, so a character, which is James Ensor, who came back from the grave. And you walk through these paintings, you meet these quirky characters, inhabitants of Ensor's world, and they just give you some missions to collect a certain amount of objects, in this case, 5 buckets. this whole mechanic kind of enforces the player to look really close at the paintings, which is something you would do in the museum as well, right? Usually if you have a big painting, you go a bit closer, you check out the details, and you take a bit of distance to really grasp the whole image. And this mechanic, yeah, kind of enforces that. I also added a little bit of a zoom thing to, especially on small phones. This comes in handy. And there's also a little bit of narrative. You have this mysterious masked man who's tearing up the paintings, and you have to patch them up in a mini game then afterwards. And it's only at the end of the game where you kind of get to know why he is tearing up these paintings. There's also some other mini games in the game spread throughout to alternate the kind of hidden object gameplay, such as a simple spot the difference game. Voila. Let me walk you a little bit through the process of how the game was made. I didn't do that for the first game, but I think it's definitely more interesting for the second one. Yeah, sorry, controversial pro tip time. Good artists copy, great artists steal. I think they both stole it probably from someone else. I mean, this quote, for me, it doesn't mean steal, literally steal. It's more like adapting something that already exists, or not starting from a blank slate, basically. A lot of people can find it very daunting to start from a blank slate. And I think, using works from the public domain, for example, is a very good example for this. So what I did is I took some of Ensor's paintings and I kind of cut them up, collage style, to create new works, right? That's basically it. So, for example, there's a very good website, publicdomainreview.org. They have a newsletter. As soon as something comes into the public domain, you see it. It's a very cool website. For me, actually, something that recently was published, and I'm definitely going to do something with in some game jam, is the third one on the bottom, which are these little paintings of eyes that people used to wear back in the days, and it was kind of a souvenir for their lovers or something to always carry them on their heart. But it's a little bit freaky as well at the same time. But I really like it. Of course, Wikimedia, biggest source of paintings. The nice thing is all the paintings also on Wikimedia, they show whether they're in the public domain or not, if you were wondering. There's scrapers, for example, to download all the images on Wikimedia as well. Arts and Cultures, Google is actually a very good website when it comes down to cataloging art. They have some very nice hyper high-res paintings where you can zoom in almost to the brushstroke detail, and there's this nice little tool called Dezoomify that allows you to really quickly download these paintings. For people that were wondering, public domain in Europe, basically the artist has to be dead for 70 years. A lot of people think 75, but it's actually only 70. In the US, it's a little bit more complicated, because it's based on when the artwork was published. If it was published before 1922, you're safe. Between 23 and 46, if the author didn't prolong the copyright, it's also actually in the public domain. So that's a very interesting one as well. So yeah, like this, I collected a lot of paintings. I think more than 500. At the start of the project, I wasn't sure if I only was going to do Ensor. And if some images were, for example, not high res enough, I also got some images from museums that wanted to help with the project, by the way, very high res images, which was also nice. But if some images were not high res enough, I would use this tool called Photo AI from Topaz. Very nice. This is actually a bit too well cleaned. Like, you can leave a little bit of noise in there because it gives the impression that the fabric is still there. So yeah, you can go a long way with that. Anyway, then I bundled them by theme. As you see here, the theme is clearly the sea. Ensor lived in Ostend, which is a village near the Sea of Belgium. He lived there for his whole life, but also still lifes. He's not that known for his still lifes, but I really love them. There's some more darker ones. There's very bright ones, saturated colors. You had the dead dog there. You have some dead fish, dead ray. Very nice flowers. Yeah, and actually this turned out to be my favorite level as well, because the character was smaller than kind of the objects he was walking in. Some nice shells there as well, some mosques, a bit creepy. And then the next stage was definitely was basically finding what these characters could need, right? Because it's just a simple hidden object game. This is Ensor's father. He was an alcoholic, so the idea would be to find bottles for him. Then you had this strange lady who nobody really knows who she is. But I also had some paintings from the roofs of Ostend, and I thought, okay, she could be missing her cats, which are spread all across these roofs. But also the dead Ray, or the still living Ray, who's looking for his babies. Or a skeleton or skull that just wants to have a fruit hat to dance the samba. It's better with the music, but and then, yeah, let me show you a little bit about the animation process. The animation was cut out, so that's the link to Monty Python. They probably didn't, it's Terry Gilliam to be specific, probably didn't invent cutout animation, but he's kind of the most known for it. So basically, it's like cutting out a character. Imagine cutting out a character from a painting. Don't do that. Putting it on a table, maybe cutting the limbs separately, and then stop motion wise, moving them around, taking a picture. And that's kind of, yeah, that's simply how I did it. Some little movements, and I think you're done. I kept the animation purposely low frame rate because I don't feel like these characters that are basically made out of paint and paper should move that fluent, which of course was an advantage because I had to animate less frames, and I think it works really well. I obviously had to touch up some stuff, paint some stuff manually as well. And then, yeah, if you have a character and you make it move, the background has to be filled in because it's not there. One great tool is the new generative fill tool of Photoshop, it's like a very advanced way of the context-aware fill that was there before. It also takes into account the context of the painting. And yeah, the rest is just stamp tool, basically very, very basic process, labor intensive, but I like to do it. It's very relaxing to do. This was way more of an art heavy project than the first one, which was way more technical, you'd say, as well. And last but not least, I thought that the player had to stand out from the painting, and that's why I gave him this black and white look, so you could always notice where he was. Yeah, and also that you would feel that he was not part of this world, part of these paintings, right? That was also part of the narrative. Prototype time. A protagonist can make all the difference. So that's one of the biggest things I learned. It might sound obvious now, of course, but I think all things sound obvious in hindsight. So yeah, as I said, the first game was very abstract. Here, a protagonist. I saw a lot of people really liking the skeleton because he's a bit bizarre. He's like an old man, he walks with his hands on his back, but he's still a skeleton. And then you had this mysterious figure, which was already kind of iconic and known from Ensor himself. And I think it really helped in selling the game. The game was fully sponsored by the Flemish government. Again, I got a lot of money from my government, so I really have to thank them for that. In this case, it was actually in the context of Belgium being the European president of the EU. The first 6 months of this year, and that's why the game is 1,000% free this time on Steam, mobile, and mobile, and maybe on Switch. So let's talk a little bit about how it went this time. So there's a little bit less impressions because the game has only been out since February, but actually there's been way more page views. The conversion rate, I made it to 1. It's insane. And the total downloads are also pretty nice, I would say. Again, App Store, even more. App Store drove all the traffic. I didn't use ads, by the way, which is a strategy that a lot of mobile developers use. And also you see here maybe from the desktop, the percentage desktop people has increased a little bit. And this is because since they're new chips, M1, M2 kind of chips, iPad games can actually also be played on Mac automatically. Like you don't even have to port them. You don't have to put them on the Mac App Store. So apparently Mac users also find their way to the game like this. There were a lot of downloads on Steam. I should say licenses, because it basically, when you click on the thing, it doesn't mean that the person necessarily downloads it, but because it's a free game, a lot of people, like, they might be afraid that it's going to disappear or not become free or something, and they just click it and then check it out later. But still 90,000 downloads. At the time, if you make a free game, and even if you don't make a free game, I would advise people to put this call to action in the game to subscribe to a newsletter. As many marketing people, including Chris Sikowski, will tell you, the best way of reaching your audience is simply through email, because social media you cannot control. Email, it's a one-on-one connection. Discord might be the second best alternative, but it might not work for everybody who's not into community building. Some games are just not really community focused, right? And you have to maintain it as well. Might be hard as a solo developer. So yeah, just ask them. I think a lot of people would love to do it. They don't realize that it's hard to reach them, and if they're interested in your game and they want to play the next one, they will gladly subscribe. So I think it's a small thing. You can connect this to a service like MailChimp, for example. And a second pro tip time, there's this great tool made by a colleague of mine, actually in Belgium, which is called Game Planner, and it's free. And you basically hook up a game. You get one game for free, and it creates. You need a Discord server, but you can make it private, and it basically creates this kind of list of channels. And all Steam reviews get in there, all the Steam community messages get in there, which is great because Steam doesn't give you a notification of these community messages. For example, some people report bugs on there, and like this, you see them immediately. You get a notification. You see all of your YouTube movies, Twitter, Reddit, whatever you want. It's absolutely amazing. It's an amazing tool. Download it. So yeah, again, Game Planner. And yeah, that was it. Let's top it off. I don't know how much time I have left. Yeah, I'm fine. I can't see it, but 10. Okay, great. With some random things I learned. So yeah, we didn't discuss the YouTubers, Twitch streamers, marketing side of things. Obviously, next to the platform traffic, I had a lot of help from them. So I think it's still one of the best strategies to do as a solo developer. But they're getting a lot of emails. So some tips is like, look up people that play your genre. Don't just reach out to the biggest ones because they're the biggest ones. No, if they don't play your kind of games, they're not going to play them anyway. But also check out the small ones, of course. I mean, they're often way more enthusiastic to play your game because they're still, building up kind of their channel. Just check out their video frequency, their last video. Also, maybe check out the conversion rate, right? The views versus subscriber count, to see if there's actually a lot of people watching the videos. You can find the business email in the About section. And there's a great blog from a YouTuber called Wonderbots, who kind of describes how you set up these emails, what you can ask, what you shouldn't ask, how you can make their life as easy as possible as well, because again, they get a shitload, pardon my French, of emails nowadays. And then for me, one of the biggest lessons, definitely won't apply to everybody, but release is not the end. Here's some real figures. This is actual money of the first game, and money is also important, of course. But what's more important is that by releasing a second game, I actually almost doubled the wish lists of my first game, and also had a couple of thousand extra sales. So yeah, again, you can keep on building on your previous games, and I think we've seen a lot of examples of games even being like 15 years old lately, with sometimes a little bit annoying. Big titles like Fallout, of course, also ruling the stores again. Last but not least, pro tip: keep on applying to festivals. Right, a lot of awards that you saw for the first game were simply because I submitted the game to festivals. It takes a little bit of work, but I think after a while it's easy. or easier because they always ask for the same kind of assets, which you kind of already still need for a press kit anyway. There's this nice list. Worthy Festivals by Indie Games. It's managed by Chris Sikowski, How to Market a Game. I think everybody knows him by now. And yeah, just keep on doing it afterwards. If you want an award before release, they will actually still probably feature you after release as well, because some of these festivals also do like this alumni featuring, also on Steam. And then some general things. Prototype a lot. Share your prototypes as soon as possible. Again, this is kind of a given, but I see a lot of people still very afraid to show their stuff. The first work, if you're starting out as a solo dev, you're gonna have to do for free. I didn't figure out another way to do it. It's just build up your game until it's like already really good, not early, but like vertical slice good, polished good, and only then code the publishers. Publishers are very not passive. I don't know the word nowadays, because there's some hard times. So you're gonna need more and more to convince them. Again, there's no way around it. Follow your gut, very important part. In any case, in any doubt, don't listen to me, which is kind of a paradox, but keep following your gut. If you have a feature you're not sure about, just put it aside, come back to it 2 weeks later. Follow your the first milliseconds feeling of like, okay, yeah, that works, or it doesn't work, and then throw it away. Yeah, very important. Listen to your sometimes non-gaming partner. They have this better vision. In my case, my girlfriend never plays games, but for some reason she always like puts the finger right where it should be. It's like, no, that doesn't work, or blah blah blah. Yeah, definitely check that out. Walk the edges of the box. By that I mean like, okay, think outside of the box, but not too much. That's what I learned from the first game mainly, is that yeah, it was a bit too abstract. It's cool, but people didn't know what it was. And yeah, people like to more or less know what they're getting. That's basically the message. And to top it off, don't do it for the money. Thank you so much. So yeah, I don't know how much time we have left. 5 minutes. That's great. Yeah, 5 minutes. Any questions? No questions. That's insane. It can be a non-game related question as well, such as what's my favorite drink, for example. Yeah. Yeah. I used to put this in my talk, but because there was so much ground to cover, I didn't put it in this one. But it's, yeah, for example, the accessibility part. That's one of the things that I was really focused on, the author-driven part, the taking parts outside of gaming subculture, right? Taking this topic of art, which is basically all it is, right? I just took art and translated it to games. I think people have done that in the past. I'm not saying I'm the first person to use existing art in their games, but I feel like usually what they did was translate it to 3D. There's these Dali or Monet experiences, but for me, you kind of lost the connection with the paintings. So that's why I stuck as close to the paintings as possible. Yeah, I got inspired by a book. What else is in there? I actually forgot some of the rules, but yeah, sorry, you're gonna have to check them out. Each rule also has like 3 sub rules, so in essence, it's more like 30 micro rules, but very interesting. Yeah.
Thank you. And then maybe as one little quick follow-up is, did you get your non-gamer friends to play the game? Did they enjoy it?
Yeah, I did. They actually enjoyed it. I don't know, maybe they lied just to please me. My dad was kind of stuck on the first game, like the puzzles were too hard, which I admit they can be hard. But he actually finished the second game, which means I'm on the right track. My mom didn't finish the second game. she was she was not convinced of the skeleton, the white skeleton, but that was purely an aesthetics thing. Like, she's a textile designer, and she was actually just critiquing the art of the main character instead of continuing the game. I hope she will continue it at some point. But even then, yeah, there's still I got some micro feedback from other people to make some tutorials even more clear. But I do think on average they're proud of me. Yeah, I hope so.
Great talk. Thank you very much. So my question is about the process of choosing the artist that you want to frame your game around. So, for example, for Ensor, what were some things that you had in mind? What kind of led you toward either Ensor or Mondrian? Because there's so many painters out there or artists. So I'm just wondering how you translated that into wanting to make a game.
Right. So the assignment, because it was part of this celebration of Belgium being the European presidency, I did have to make the game about Flemish heritage. So I was already limited to Flemish painters. And I looked a bit into Renaissance painters. You have, the Van Eyck and Rembrandt, which is technically Dutch. And what was the other guy's name? Or Bosch, which is also technically Dutch. Back in the days, Belgium didn't exist. But I do feel that I wanted to stay in the modern age, because it's just, I find it's more interesting. They made more interesting work. And there's already another guy who makes point and click games, Procession to Calvary. I think a lot of people might know it, based purely out of Renaissance art. So again, that's why I stayed in the modern. And if you look at modern art in Belgium, or you go right away to Magritte, but for example, Magritte is not in the public domain. So that's where, again, I got cut off. So it kind of steered me towards Ensor. There was also Spiljart, who's he makes very dark kind of paintings. Anna Boch, who's one of the group, the 20. It's like a group started by Ensor, not started by Ensor, but started by some Belgian painters as a reaction to the salons, the elitist salons in Paris. But they didn't make it in the final game. I was actually going to alternate between Ensor and other painters. I didn't have enough time because the game had to be ready for the presidency. But good news, I'm going to put them in the next game. So voila. This is, for example, the left one is pointilliste, or sort of a pointilliste, which is a technique where you do all the dots. Van Rijsselberger, who is also Belgian, and then you maybe a little bit of Monet, Van Gogh. I realized I didn't put Anna Boch in here, which is a pity. But actually, I might also go back to abstract art, because now that I have the new mechanic, I could apply it to abstract art as well. I could just have some missions where you have to look for 5 yellow circles. So it's just a different kind of gameplay. And I think mixed with the other paintings, it might not hurt the marketing point of view as much as the first. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. One more question. I don't know about the time. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for the talk. It's really interesting.
Thanks.
I think it's amazing that you followed something that you were passionate about.
Thank you.
That's very brave. So I think that's quite commendable. But in relation to that, you talked about the challenges of making money and funding the projects.
Yeah.
Presumably, the government funding you got from Belgian government is helping you pay your own, costs. Can you speak a little bit more about the challenge of that and how you would plan to go forward for that? Because I think it's probably a problem that anyone going indie is going to have to deal with.
No, as I said, I'm very grateful. I don't think everybody has that advantage. But I think the biggest lesson that I've learned from now is that games sell games. So there's just this initial path that you have to get through. There's also, of course, the opposite story. We all know them, the people that work for 7-8 years on games, the Stardew Valleys of this world. Yeah, that could work as well. But I think the majority of people just have to build up their portfolio, make several games, and after a while it will triple back to the first ones. And yeah, I'm afraid to say that again, the first pop, definitely in this kind of being alone, you might just have to cover for yourself, or a government, or a parent, or a small bank loan. I don't know. Yeah, it's a difficult process. Yeah. I'm not rich at all. That's why the passion comes in, right? Because if I wouldn't have the passion, then I wouldn't do it at all, of course. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I think we're done. Time's up. Thanks, everybody.